8-piece fried chicken, he said. So we laid in bed, it was our anniversary, and we laid in bed and ate fried chicken that afternoon. And the day before he died, you guys, our friends from Montana were there, and Barry said, Connie, will you make us some of those caramel sticky buns? And she did. He had caramel sticky buns. I made him a fried bologna sandwich and some Fritos and a Muggs root beer for lunch. That night, Kurt was making a meatloaf. He ate meatloaf. He was hungry for his mom's teeny tiny pasta noodles with lots of butter and garlic and Parmesan. He was eating like a champ. He was eating like we all know Barry could eat. And we watched the Twins game. They won. And I said, hey, you want an ice cream sundae, chocolate sauce? And his eyes lit up and he's like, yeah. So less than 12 hours before Barry died, he was eating like Barry Nelson could eat and loving every minute of it. More than anything, he loved sharing and was probably one of the most giving people I have ever known. He taught me a lot about sharing, which I am so grateful for. Barry was the idea guy, and I put his ideas into action. For example, we would make Easter baskets for the neighborhood kids, and we would hide them in our yard. Barry also wanted to give our special neighborhood kids, some of who are here today, the big candy bars at Halloween. Barry loved when all the decorating for Christmas was done and he would anticipate Rudolph coming on TV. 60 years old, man, he still loved his Rudolph. And I recreated for him a childhood memory of his mom baking cookies while he watched Rudolph when he was 4 years old. Boy, did we make cookies at Christmas. He was so happy he got to share his last Christmas with loved ones, with dear friends, and also that we hosted 2 Thanksgivings. He loved sharing. Sharing food and making sure there was always enough for everyone was extended way beyond friends and family. When we lived in Minnesota, and since we moved to Payson, we would go grocery shopping every month and bring food to the local food shelf. Another way he shared was his goal of wanting to make someone smile every day. It was like a mission for him. He would probably not want attention about any of this, but it is who he was, and that deserves to be celebrated, I think. Barry also shared his amazing financial abilities and was actually an advisor for many of you here today, and I hope it's working out for you. He was also a man who liked good booze. One of our friends bought a nice bottle of scotch up there on the table. But he also liked his Miller High Life. It was right up there, the champagne of bottled beers. Of course, we had to stop at Morelli's when we came back to Minnesota. I just need to say a few things about our last 2.5 years during Barry's illness and bone marrow transplant. First of all, he continued to want to make someone smile. The medical staff, or other patients, or the folks we lived with at the Hope Lodge for those 8 months, or me. Yes, there were many days it was a challenge for him to smile. But then he would say something like, you know, Barbara, no matter what, the sun is going to come up tomorrow. Or, I know God's got my back. Barry struggled a lot. Barry also lived. We lived. We even hosted Easter while we were living at the Hope Lodge. Some dear friends were visiting us, and because no visitors were allowed in the Hope Lodge, we sat on the patio. I found a Christmas tablecloth to put on the table for Easter. We got our full ham dinner from the grocery store. We enjoyed every minute of that time with our friends. We lived. Some of you might not know how much Barry and I loved to dance with each other. We sure did. Barry thought that couples that danced together seemed happy together. He had never danced before we met. He was really good. This past January, we had an appointment at Mayo with our doctor, but we also had tickets for a concert with our friends, the Herd, as Barry dubbed them, from Payson. The concert was on the same day as our appointment. Unbeknownst to us, the Herd had a song dedicated to Barry that night. And even with his weak body and his mask on his face, we danced together that night. For the last time, as it turned out. But we danced. Thank you. We would have a rough day, and one of us would remind the other, excuse me a moment, to come back to the moment. We usually did. We learned a lot during this journey, and I think it's just safe to say the biggest thing we learned is how we are all connected. When I think of the female donor in Poland that was a match for Barry, when I think of our nephew, Nick, who was a donor for a teenager in California, we're all connected. The other thing is that there truly is, I believe, enough love to go around. You are angels from afar, and the Herd have been more than amazing. Barry and I promised to pay it forward when we got through this journey. I promised Barry I would keep that promise. Barry was truly at peace. I really need you all to know that. As we told you, he was looking at leaving this life and going on to his next adventure. The biggest struggle for Barry was leaving me. And I tried as best as I could, in the midst of my tears, to reassure him that I would be okay. And I would continue to try to make someone smile every day and to share the gifts we have been given on this journey. I'd like to think that Hurricane Barry was a sign of our Barry. After struggling to move for such a long time, he is definitely moving again. My life was forever changed that night I met Barry Nelson, one of the good guys, almost 20 years ago. And I'm grateful, and I miss him like crazy. I hope thoughts of Barry bring a smile to your hearts, because if they do, then Barry's goal of making someone smile will have been met today.